Next agenda is Catherine Savage. Catherine is our post-harvest extension officer, and she will discuss sour rot control with us.
Yes. All right. I hope you can all hear me and see me. And now I'm gone again. Control, and I think I'll use up a little bit of the extra time that we've made up. All right, so on to sour rot. I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly. I'm not going to waste your time with stuff that you already know. So you're all aware what causes sour rot. You know the conditions that it likes, all of that kind of stuff. The one thing that I do want to say about sour rot is that generally it's a situation that goes from bad to worse. So normally sour rot happens when we're already dealing with, say, a lot of rain, or we've already got insect damage, or creasing has wounded the fruit, something else is happening, and then sour rot happens. And sour rot is a yucky, mushy, smelly, horrible decay. So it's something that we really don't like, because it's not something that we can just sort out, easily grade out, send that fruit for juicing. It's something that's very disruptive in our pack houses. So I have a poll question for us. If you guys can just go to the poll tab and answer that question. And the question is sour rot a main decay for you? So out of all the post-harvest pathogens that we have, is sour rot a big problem for you? And the answers that are coming through, it seems like it's actually pretty equal across the board. I think you guys can see this as well. I think we've made the polls public now. But anyway, so for those of you that is a problem, pay attention. For those of you that are in nice dry areas and don't worry about it, you guys can go to sleep. But for everyone else, we're going to talk about the control now. So there's three aspects that we use to control sour rot. Obviously, our fungicide control is a big one. That's the one we're going to focus on. And then we've got sanitizers and our culture and physical practices. So moving on to our fungicides, the main one you're all very well aware of is Quasitine, that it's an incredibly powerful fungicide. It worked really well on older infections, and we could use it pretty much anywhere in the pack house. It's a really great fungicide. But then the EU dropped the MRL, and basically we couldn't use it for one of our main markets. So we had to look at alternatives, and that is where propiconazole came in. But unfortunately, from the beginning, propiconazole hasn't been as great. It's never been as powerful. We've always worried about the infection age, and we've always been worried about the cross-resistance with Imazel. Because Imazel and propiconazole are in the same frat group, from the beginning, we've been nervous about using it. We've been a bit worried. But at least we had it. For going to EU particularly, we had something against sour rot. But of course, now the question is what's happening with the EU MRL, and also a lot of people are concerned, how do we clean off propiconazole residue off our lines? So to answer those questions, unfortunately, I'm the bearer of bad news. Unfortunately, EU has decided to lower the propiconazole MRL. So we now have 6 months to get all fruit with propiconazole sold. That's sort of where we stand at the moment. We're waiting for the exact final date, but like I said, the decision's been made. So from now on, we have 6 months to get all that fruit out, sold, finished. So I want people to really understand here the consequences here. This does not mean that you have 6 months to use up any stock you have of propiconazole. It doesn't mean that at the 6 month date you must stop treating, but everything after that is fine. All that fruit must be sold in the EU. So you have to stop using propiconazole much sooner than the cutoff date, so that fruit is finished, done, sold, all of it gone, nothing's in transit, nothing's waiting to be sold by the cutoff date. So the best idea here to be safe is to rather not use propiconazole this year. However, if you are packing for the EU and you do have sour rot's a problem, that you're worried about it, the latest you can use it is April. And that should give you enough time to get all of that fruit sold and finished by the cutoff date. If you are going to use propiconazole this year, or if you've used it last year, but particularly if you're going to use it this year, remember that you need to have enough time after you stop treating to then clean your line. If you're then going to carry on packing for EU, or you're going to have to pack for a different market. So just be aware of that. And then we also know that MRLs, the situation changes often, meeting gets moved, dates change, numbers change. So we're going to let you know if we hear anything else as information comes available. We'll let you know what's happening there. And then we're also going to see what the influence of Brexit is. At the moment, we're hearing very favorable sort of talks and stuff that UK will be a lot more tolerant than EU. So we'll let you know as we hear about all of that. Okay, so the man who's going to keep us informed about all of this is Paul Hardman, and I've given you his contact details there because he welcomes you to contact him should you have any queries, if you don't understand anything, if you're nervous about something, you're welcome to contact him directly and ask. And then before we move on, the last thing that I want to say about MRLs is just to always remember the South African MRL. It's one thing that we're very worried about, our markets and their MRLs, but we still have our own laws to comply to. So for propaganol particularly, the South African MRL is actually lower than a lot of our markets. So always keep that in mind and comply to the lower one. All right, so moving on to propaganol and how we clean off the line. So like I said, if you've used propaganol last year, or if you are planning on using it this year, you need to be sure that if you're packing for a sensitive market, that there's going to be no residue left on your line. And we know that the number one source of contamination on the line is our brushes. So you need to swap out those brushes if they're a risk. Luckily, a lot of pack houses, they tend to they've put propaganol in the drench. So brushes further along the pack line shouldn't be a problem. But wherever you have used propaganol, so in the drench, any bins that have been drenched, and the beginning of your line, you're going to have to really clean that, physically clean it. And then there are products available. There are commercial residue stripping products available now on the market. So get one of those, but then read the instructions, because these are not magical residue dissolving products. It often involves putting on the product, using it correctly, and then scrubbing. A lot of the times you really have to physically, manually clean that line off. So do all of that, and you should get quite a bit of hopefully all of the residue off, but to be sure, the last thing that you must do is then send fruit over the line. So if you've got some leftover fruit, some juice fruit or something like that, run it over that line and then send that fruit to residue analysis. And this is so you can just check that you've really got everything. You haven't missed some brushes somewhere. You haven't, now that you're running the line, there's some residue in a pipe somewhere that gets dislodged. Make sure that you've got all of that residue. All right, so another poll question for you. So in light of the EU, restricting propaganol or lowering the MRL, are you still going to use it in 2021? And I see the majority of people are actually saying no at this point, which is pretty much as we suspected. All right, so moving on to the use of sanitizers. Again, I'm not going to waste any time here. We all know how important sanitizers are. We know the role that they play. But I want to say here something controversial, and I want to say thank you to COVID, because COVID has made us realize the importance of sanitizers. So sanitation in the pack house is exactly the same as sanitation in a shop. So you walk into a shop, you sanitize your hands, and this means that you don't touch anything and spread the virus that could be potentially on the surface of your body. It's the same in the pack house. That fruit comes from the orchard, you don't know what's on it, potentially sour rot spores, but by putting in a drench with sanitizer, by washing that fruit, you get rid of the spores that are on the surface and you don't spread it to other fruit. So it's so simple. We all really understand how sanitation works now. So thank you, COVID. Looking at our culture and physical control, these are all things which will happen pre-harvest in the orchard. So it's mostly our orchard sanitation and our skirting. And again, thank you to COVID, because we understand what's happening now. Orchard sanitation is isolation. We take away that diseased fruit, we isolate it from the healthy population. Skirting is social distancing. We keep a distance between the healthy fruit on the tree and the soil where we know that the sour rot occurs. So we are preventing the spread of sour rot by doing these things, which we're doing in our lives. We just need to do in the orchard as well now. Okay, so quickly, I'm just going to run over what's coming in the future. So one thing that we are really excited about is UV light. So far, it has shown really good promise on sour rot spores. Just a few seconds of this UV light, and it's wiping out all of those sour rot spores. And the UV light is being used in other industries, other crops, other countries. So CRI, Vilma and Lindo and their team, they're going to be testing it this year on fruit. And it's really exciting technology that we're hoping we'll be able to roll out to industry soon. And then the other one, which is coming up, is plant-based actives. So we've had a lot of problems in the past with plant-based actives because we couldn't register them because the actives are unknown. There's no residue data, so you can't properly give all the information. But those things seem to be sorted out now. So one product that I want to give a shout out to is Sani D. There's been a lot of media attention. There was a lot of worry about using this product, but they've now got Act 5 registration that's in place, and they're working on Act 36 registration. But plant-based actives aren't something that we're unfamiliar with. Last year, we told you about clove oil. So these are becoming more and more commonplace in the industry, and they seem to work really well against sour rot. So we're quite excited about the potential for that, and hopefully we'll see it more and more this year. All right, so my conclusion here is to tell you what you need to do for 2021. And the first thing is that if sour rot is a problem, you go and you're exporting to the, or rather, if sour rot is a problem, you're going to have to go to markets that allow quercetin and or propiconazole. All right, and if you're going to the EU, you're going to have to let go of propiconazole, you're going to have to let go of quercetin, and just focus on the other things. So, you know, like I said, if sour rot's a problem and you need that fungicide control, you're going to have to then go to a different market. If you are going to use propiconazole for your EU market at the latest April, you're going to have to stop with that treatment. And then absolutely everything else to control sour rot, just remember your COVID rules. Sanitize, social distance, isolate, and then finally, hang in there like we are for COVID. We're waiting for a vaccine. You know, with sour rot, there are new things coming on. We're testing them as quickly as possible, and we'll hopefully be able to tell you more soon. And with that, thank you very much.